help me today? You are? Okay, well, we'll see. First, we got to get it over here, and it's really heavy. Wow, I've never seen unboxing quite like this, so check this out. Boom! I've never seen anything unboxed quite like that. That's pretty cool. Nice, and they even have their own little cover for it. Turn you on, and I heard, what do we have here? Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Oh! Forward, forward, forward. Not the TV, not the TV. What's up everybody, Average Joe here. In today's video we have another portable power station that we're going to be taking a look at. This one is the Zendure Superbase V4600. And of course, not to waste anybody's time, I'm going to try to make this video as short and sweet as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed to my channel or watch any of my videos on any of my power stations or anything like that, typically what we do next is go over all the specifications, take a closer look, and then we get right into the testing. Again, all these videos are relatively the same, but we just want some consistency. Alrighty, so let's get to it. Alright, so what we have here is the Zendure Superbase V4600. 4600 is basically the battery capacity. So it's got 4.6 kilowatt hour or 4600 watt hour of lithium iron phosphate batteries built inside of here. Right here on the front, to turn it on, you're going to hit the green power button for a couple of seconds. It will turn on and give you a little RGB light show, and then we're powered on. On the display here, up on the top left, you got a little tiny light bulb. That's basically these lights right here. You can turn that on or off by the button right over here, and then turn it back on. You just hit the button again. Also on the display, you got your input and output in watts, and then right in the center is your battery percent state of charge. Up here on the top right, you got your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connectivity. You can turn that on or off with this button right here. So obviously it is going to come with an app that can go on Android or iOS, so you can monitor or control this from the couch upstairs. And then right here in the lower center is your hours or time remaining whenever you're charging or discharging. Right below that we have two USB-A ports. Those are obviously 5 volts, 2.4 amps, and then right in the center we have 4 USB-C ports. The 2 on the left are your PD100s, and the 2 on the right are only 20 watters. Lastly, we have your AC button, which turns on your inverter. If I didn't mention it before, this comes with a 3800 watt pure sine wave inverter. That is 120 volts and 240 volts. And I think I misspoke in a previous video on another power station. I assumed that they were the first ones to have 240 volts. I was wrong. It's actually the Zendure that came out with the first portable power station to have 240 volts. Anyway, moving on, right below that is your AC output. Right over here is your 240 volt, 16 amp max socket, and then right below that you have the RV style plug, which is 120 volts, 30 amp max. And then right over here you have 4 15 amp 120 volt outlets. Another cool thing about this is it does have the UPS function, or uninterruptible power supply function. Basically, if you plug something into this and then plug this into the wall, power goes out, your device is going to stay powered. To turn on the AC inverter, you're going to hit that little button right there. You're going to get a little icon that pops up right over here. It says 60 hertz. You have a Zen plug and the AC plug. There's actually another feature that you can do with this, especially if you're trying to power an RV. There's actually an RV mode. In order to do that, you got to hold down the AC button for a couple of seconds until it beeps. Like that. Now it's switched over to RV mode, but basically what that does is it turns off the 240 volt outlet right there to give you full power out of your RV plug right there. And then of course, if you're just trying to get a mixture of 3800 watts out of everything in here, you can turn that Zen port back on, hold down the AC button for a couple of seconds, and it'll switch back over and turning on the 240 volt socket right there. All right, and then right up here on the top, you got your lifting or carrying handle, and then you also have the luggage style handle that comes right out the top, so you can cart this bad boy around anywhere. And then right on the bottom, it also comes with 2 locking casters. And speaking of casters, it also comes with 2 extra casters, I guess, just in case you break these ones. All right, and I think that's pretty much it on the front side. Before I move this, there is one other feature I gotta let you know, that it does have like a power assist for the wheels. So whenever you are carting this thing around, the wheels will basically turn on and help you move it across the floor or the terrain. It basically makes it a lot lighter to pull around. Another thing that you can do with that is basically just push it and let go and it will keep going. So I have to turn this off before I turn it around on the table. Otherwise, we might do an accidental drop test. And then on the front right, you got your DC output. It's under this little tiny door right here. On the top, you're gonna have a 12 volt, 30 amp Anderson style plug. Right below that, you're gonna have a 12 volt, 10 amp cigarette lighter port. And then finally, right below that, you have 2 5521 barrel style ports. Those again are 12 volt, 3 amps. On the right hand side, there really isn't too much except for the 2 exhaust fan ports right here in the center. The left hand side, again, there really isn't much on this side except for the 2 fan intake ports right here. All right, on the back side, here's that other lifting or carrying handle that I mentioned before. We have your AC input, your Zen charge, and then your DC input. All right, so under door number 1, which is the AC input, you have your standard 120 volt, charging outlet right here. And like many others, it has a fast and slow charge switch right here. Up is fast, down is slow. I believe the fast charge is around 1600 watts and the slow charge, when you first get it, is set to 700 watts. However, you can go into the app and customize that for a lower charge rate, which is what I did. I changed it to 400 watts. And then right over here is your Zen charging. This is for you can do like EV charging and you can do some crazy stuff with this. Of course, I don't have an EV, so I can't do anything with that. Another really cool thing with this is if you're bringing along traveling and you stop at an EV charging port, you can actually recharge from right here. And then finally we have your DC input. This one is on like a little sliding door, which I kind of prefer over these other ones. I don't think you could do that with the other ones, but I could be wrong. Anyway, over here on the left, you have a battery expansion port. That's with the cable that it did come right here. This cable's really, really nice, to be honest. Anyway, if you had expansion batteries, obviously you would plug that right in here and then plug the other end right into your battery, which we do not have, so I can't really test any of that. And then finally, to recharge this from solar or a car charger, etc., it comes with an XT90 port right here. The voltage range on here is 12 volts all the way up to 150 volts DC, so that's nice. And you can do a max charge of 3000 watts. And then lastly is the very, very top, which there's nothing on here except for these 2 rubber strips, which are removable to allow you to put your expandable battery on. And finally, don't let me forget, it also came with this really nice carrying case for the AC charging cable and the 12 volt to XT90, DC charging cable. It did not come with the XT90 to MC4, if you're charging from solar, so you would have to get that separately. Mine also came with a USB flash drive to update the firmware, which I did not do. I just did it over either Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, whatever one was connected whenever I connected it. And of course, it also came with a little Zendure manual right there. But honestly, this case is really, really nice, and my wife is probably gonna steal it. The first thing I wanna do is I wanna check the output voltage on the outlets right here. The reason I wanna do that is because a lot of the portable power stations out there will advertise 120 volts. However, the actual output voltage is only like 110. Is that a big deal for a lot of people? I don't know, but for me it is, because here in the United States we use 120 volts. Also, while we're here, we'll switch it over to RV mode to make sure the 240 volt outlet turns off. All right, so we'll turn it on. We're gonna check the AC output over here, and we're producing 121.2 volts, so that is fan-freaking-tastic. And then we'll check the 240 volt outlet. All right, so we got 242.6 volts, so that is fan-freaking-tastic. We are going to turn that off, put it in RV mode, and look at that, 0 volts. So it does actually turn off. All right, next thing we're gonna do is plug it into the wall so we can test out the UPS function with this 150 watt light bulb right here. I know this probably isn't the very best test because it's not an electronic device like a computer or anything like that, but this, oh, it's a 100 watt light bulb, sorry. It will show us if the light blinks or not. It's supposed to have like a pretty quick UPS transfer time. Plug her in. You can see UPS mode showed right up here on the top. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug it. Maybe we'll see a flicker. Barely. We'll go ahead and plug it in one more time. Maybe you're having some really bad brownouts. Plug it back in, flips back over into pass-through mode and charging mode. We'll unplug it again, and we just have that little tiny flicker. So UPS function works just fine, and that should work for every single port. Plug this guy in right here. UPS light reappears. I'll wait for it to charge again. Charging one more time. Unplugged it. Actually, I don't even think it flickered that time. I kind of want to try that again. All right, tiniest flicker. All right, I would say UPS mode works really, really good. I wish I could check this side, but I don't think I have the correct plugs to do that. All right, well, there you go. UPS function works as advertised. I don't really think I need to test out all the USB ports, do I? I mean, I don't have anything that'll draw 100 watts for USB-C anyway. So I think I'm gonna call it quits for the tabletop test. I did want to do a couple of tests real quick, just so I know how the Superbase V kind of handles different loads. So I've got two 1500 watt heaters right over here. I've got a 10-inch sliding compound miter saw that is 15 amps. And then I've got a 2 horsepower air compressor right over here that is 14 amps. Whenever I do power the saw, I'm not going to be cutting any wood or anything like that because we're inside of my house. I just want to turn on the saw because there's a big inrush of current. All right, so we're just going to plug in one 1500 watt heater and see how it handles it. We'll just go into this plug right here. All right, one heater on low. About 1300 watts. I'm going to change it to high, 1500 watts. If I didn't mention it before, the upper outlets are on phase A and the lower sockets are on phase B. All right, we're just going to see what happens if we plug in another heater to the same phase. We'll go on low, 1900 watts. We go on high. All right, so it did surge up a little above 2, and then now we're back down to 1900. All right, let me put this heater back on low. All right, so we are limited to roughly, looks like 2000 watts. Okay, now I'm gonna go down to phase B, and here we go. There we go. So now we're at 2240, that's on low. Let me go to high. Now we're at 2950 watts. All right, I'm gonna plug a 150 watt heater right in here. Now we're at 3100. I'm gonna put a 100 watt heater down here. So 3200. All right, looks like I need to get something else. All right, I do have a third heater. I don't know how much it draws, so I'm gonna turn these down. All right, third heater is gonna be plugged in right over here. I'm gonna put that on low. So now we're at 2400. All right, this heater on high. 3200. This heater on high. Let me try this heater on high. All right, looks like we're getting a max around, look, there's 3400 I saw. I think there was a 3500 in there as well. All right, we just overloaded it. We're gonna go ahead and turn the AC back on. All right, next test we're gonna do is basically turn off the 220 volt outlet here. So we'll hold down for 3 seconds. All right, RV mode is activated. So we're basically gonna run all the heaters again. Here we go. 1500 watt heater on this one down here. Next 1500 watt heater is on. We're at 3000 watts. All right, the next heater is gonna be turned on. This is on low. 3400 I saw. Yep, 34. And then I'm going to change it to high. 3510 I saw. All right, so there you go. All right, let me get this reset here, and we are going to try the saw and the air compressor. And first test we're going to do here is the 10-inch sliding compound miter saw. Again, I'm not going to be cutting any wood or anything like that. Here we go. All right, it does the saw just fine. We're gonna plug in the air compressor onto the same phase and we'll see what happens. First thing I'll do is turn on the air compressor. And now we're going to do the saw. Okay, it definitely doesn't like to do both on the same phase. When the air compressor is on and I turn on the saw, the air compressor basically stops running until the saw gets up to speed and then it kicks back on. All right, so we're going to switch phases here. I'm going to put the air compressor down on the bottom. And now we're going to do the saw. All right, it definitely does not like to do that either. So what I'm going to do now is switch on the 220 volt outlet and see if everything changes. All right, we'll do this again. We'll put both in the same phase. I'll do the air compressor first. Yeah, this does not like my air compressor. Let me switch it back over to RV mode and see if that changes. All right, here we go. All right, so whenever we're in the regular 220 mode, it does not like my air compressor. I guess we can switch this back over and we will swap it over for maybe a heater instead. Heater is on. Here we go for the saw. We're actually going to try that in the same phase. Heater's on, 1500 watts. Now we're going to do the saw. Alright, it does do it, but it doesn't really like having that much load on one side. Alrighty, there you go. So it will run basically everything here. However, it does not like to do the saw and the air compressor at the same time. If the bulk of your items, or basically if all of your items are on 120 volts, I would definitely switch that over to the RV mode. That way you get more power out of the 120 volt outlets. All right, next test is going to be a capacity test, and we're going to be doing a 0.2 C rate discharge test, and we're going to be using this space heater right here. Hopefully we can set it on low and we can reach roughly 900 watts, which would be 20% of the actual battery capacity. And then we can find out the efficiency rating of this system. All right, here we go. All right, test has started. You can see right here on the screen we're drawing roughly 800 watts. It is just a little under the 0.2 C rate of 900 watts, but I think it'll be all right. And if we can maintain 800 watts, it gives us a runtime of 5.1 hours. So once this is done, I'll be right back. All right, sorry for that reflection, but we got 4.004 kilowatt hour. And if you saw it right up on the top, it said we ran for 5 hours and 4 minutes. All right, I'm gonna let this recharge up just a little bit, and then we're going to take it outside and see if we can recharge it with solar. I'm gonna make a little connection here. I've got two offcuts from a previous project apparently. So I'm gonna be connecting this to an XT90 connector, and I got a whole bag right here. I also bought a whole bunch of this really flexible silicone wire, which would be great for my solar wires. First, we got to connect these to an XT90 connector. Here's my XT90 connector. You got positive on the flat side, and then negative is the curved side or beveled side. I do have a fume extraction in here, so don't worry about those fumes. All right, so whenever we connect these MC4 connectors to the XT90, the negative one is actually going to go to the positive, and the positive is going to be going to the negative on the XT90. And that's just so whenever we hook up our solar panel, the positive wire can connect right to the MC4 connector. Same thing for the negative. Boom, there you go, XT90 to MC4 connector in just a couple of minutes. All right, so now we're gonna take this thing outside and hook it up to my solar panels and see if we can recharge it. Also, what we're gonna do right now is see if we can even drag it up the stairs, because maybe you need to drag it up the stairs or drag it down the stairs. All right, let's get to it. I'm just using this lifting point right here and not the extendable handle because it's a little long and it only locks out at a full extension. But on a positive note, it does not scratch up your stairs because the bottom side is smooth. So we were able to get up these 8 steps. It is pretty difficult, but it is doable. All right, here's a quick little example of it driving. You can just drive it wherever. All right, next test is going through the grass over to the solar panels. Don't know how well it's gonna do with the small wheels. Oh, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad pulling it through the grass, honestly. All right, so this is one of my ground mount solar arrays. It has 10 202 watt Sanyo panels. The open circuit voltage is 68.8. So what I did is I wired 2 of them in series for each one. So it is a 2S 5P, and that's roughly 2020 watts in perfect conditions. Of course, today's date is Wednesday, November the 22nd. The sun's pretty low in the sky, and when it is up there, it's not up there for very long. We actually have some shadowing on the panels, so I don't know how much better we're gonna get. All right, so before we actually connect up the solar, I do wanna make sure we're underneath the 150 volts that this can take. We're gonna check the end of the XT90 connector, and if you can see that, we're sitting at 131.4 volts, so that is perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and go right here, and we're just gonna plug right into the XT90. Sorry for that terrible glare. I cannot get away from that at all. But if you look right over here, you can see we are charging at 900, ooh, that was almost 1,000 watts, but roughly 950 to 980 watts. All right, if you want to take a quick look at the app right here, if we're charging at 950 watts, we'll say it has a recharge time of 5 hours. So we might actually get it fully charged today, but we'll find out. If we scroll down just a little bit, you can see the power flow. So 985 watts going right down and charging the battery. Nice. Alrighty, time is 4:30 p.m. and the sun is down. Do a little check-in right down here. And if you see, we're only putting in 20 watts right now, and we got up to 81% state of charge. Alrighty, we're gonna start wrapping this video up because it's gone on long enough. So we're gonna do a quick little recap just in case you skipped over the entire video. All right, the UPS test, it does that fan-freaking-tastic. Of course, I did not get to test the 240 volt side or the RV style plug. I just don't have the correct wires to plug anything into that, which I will probably order because somebody will probably want me to do that. So far, at least for the 120 volt outlets on the front, all 4 UPS tests worked great. The next things were the heaters, the saw, the air compressor, all of that kind of stuff. Whenever I ran all of the heaters, I think my max, continuous running watts were around 30, I'm gonna say an average of 3,300 where it didn't shut off. If I started adding more than that, it would spike up to about 3,500 and then drop back down, and then shortly after that, the unit would trip out or at least shut off the inverter. It was easily resettable by just turning the inverter back on. It did not like to run the air compressor or the saw at the exact same time, and that is on the 240 volt mode or the RV mode. I think it's just too much of a inrush current when there's already a pretty big load on the system. So for my recommendations for that, if you need to run some pretty big items like an air compressor or a saw, I would try to run those individually. And of course, I would make sure you're on the RV mode whenever you do that. The next test was the capacity test. I tried to run a 0.2C discharge test. That's basically the industry standard. I was just a little below that at 800 watts. We ran for a little over 5 hours and we got 4 kilowatt hour out of the 4.6 kilowatt hours that is available in the unit. The efficiency rating on that, since we were going to AC, was 86%. Honestly, I don't think that's all that great. However, I have heard that you do need to do a couple of capacity tests on here to basically calibrate the BMS. So I don't know if we need to take that one with a grain of salt or not yet. So basically what I'm gonna do after this video is I'm just gonna start cycle testing this. I'm pretty much gonna use the same 800 watt heater and just cycle it a couple more times times and see if we get more capacity out of the battery. If you want to hear those results, let me know in the comment section. I could either put it in the description down below, or I can just do a whole nother video with some more tests. Actually, a video is probably going to be it, because I'll have to order some of the cables, you know, the RV style plug, and then the other one, I forget what it's called, you know, so we can do some more testing with that. Next thing we did was recharge it with solar. Again, it is towards the end of November, basically Thanksgiving weekend, by the way. I only had literally 1 day to recharge from solar. Every single other day that we had out here was either cloudy or snowing. We just had a little dusting of snow out there. I consider myself lucky that we actually had a chance to recharge from solar. We didn't get a lot. I let it sit out there from basically 11:15 to 4:30 p.m., so just a little over 5 hours. We started at 3% and we charged all the way up to 81%. We got a max input of 1.4 kilowatt, and that was just for a little bit of time. You know, it just kind of slowly went off from there. I would say that isn't too bad for the solar that we had available. All right, next is the pro cons list, and we're going to start with the pros first. First pro, obviously, it is lithium iron phosphate. You can cycle it over 6,000 times, and you're going to still have 80% of the life cycle in the battery. The next pro is it's really expandable, and what I mean by that is you can add 4 other batteries to this, so you can get 23 kilowatt hours worth of battery. And of course, if you need some serious power, you can actually parallel in another Superbase V4600, and then 4 more batteries for a total of 8 batteries, and then you would get 46 kilowatt hours worth of battery. That's pretty impressive. You're actually getting into the area where you can, you know, go fully off-grid with your home. Which actually brings me to my next point. I keep looking over here because it's sitting right here, is you can actually get is what they call a home panel. It's basically like another sub panel that you would install next to your home panel, and then you can start powering all of those loads either off-grid, or you can just keep them on there for battery backup or emergency use. That is pretty cool. And of course, if I didn't mention it, that would plug into the back to the Zen charge port, that EV port on the back. That would connect up to the panel, and then you would basically power your house from that, which also actually you can charge and recharge directly from that. So that's pretty cool. The next pro is the DC charging port, the XT90. You can actually recharge up to 150 volts DC, which is fan-freaking-tastic. Most other portable power stations out there, they really only go up to like 60 volts, and that's just not good. With this, you can do 150 volts. You can have your panels further away from your house, or maybe if you're camping, RV, you can have your panels further away. You can use smaller wire. The next thing, which is completely unnecessary, is you can drive it around with your phone. I mean, do we really need that? No, but it's pretty cool. I guess the other cool thing about that is the motorized wheels in the back. If you're, I'm not going to say old people, but if you have problems pulling things, the motorized wheels, once you start pulling it, I think it's like, I don't know, 3 revolutions of the wheel, it automatically kicks in and helps you pull it along. That, I mean, that's pretty awesome. You can't go wrong with that. Now we're gonna go on to the cons list. First con that I can obviously come up with is it weighs a lot. If you need to bring this up and down the stairs, or if you need to move it in and out of a vehicle a lot, I mean, you could do it by yourself, but you're gonna want a second person, obviously. Again, it has 4.6 kilowatt hour worth of lithium iron phosphate batteries inside. The unit is pretty big. I mean, it's gonna be heavy. The next con is all the little doors on the front and the back. I mean, I am just not a fan of those little doors. Once you open them, they just kind of loosely hang out, you know, and then whenever you plug something in, I mean, I feel like I'm gonna break the doors off. I think they probably could have come up with something better. The one that covers the DC, the little sliding door over here, that one is perfectly fine. I like that one. All the other doors, I'm not a fan. Now the next one I am going to throw on the con list, which is the inverter, and that is because I could not get the 3.8 kilowatt out of the inverter. I really only got up to like 35 for a couple of seconds, and then it would hang out at like 33, 3400, and then it would shut off. Now there is a little sidebar to that, like I said earlier, is I couldn't test the 240 volt outlet or the RV style outlet on the front. Maybe once I get the proper cabling, you know, I can revisit that test. But for right now, the inverter is going on my cons list because I couldn't get the full 3800 watts or 3.8 kilowatt out of the unit. The next one I'm also going to throw on the cons list, which is the battery capacity, at least that we got out of it. We got 4 kilowatt out of the 4.6, you know, going to the AC output. I would have liked to see a little bit more. Again, we only got like 86%. I think we could do better than that. Again, another little sidebar is they say you need to do a couple of capacity tests to basically calibrate the BMS. Now, I do a lot of DIY stuff with batteries and BMSs. I do fully understand cycling it a few times to calibrate the BMS. I feel like that should have been done already. And I think that's pretty much all I can come up with at the moment. Oh, there's one other thing I forgot to mention is Zendure is sending me out one of their Y cables. Pretty sure what that allows you to do is actually get 240 volt split phase out of this unit. If I didn't mention it earlier, that 240 volt plug on the front, it is not 240 volt split phase, it is just 240 volts. I 100% know that because I accidentally blew up my washing machine, 3 light bulbs, and 1 power strip. Don't ask me how, but I had to go buy another washing machine, and we might as well buy a new dryer to match. Throw your thoughts on how I did that in the comment section. And of course, you can make fun of me too. But anyway, back to the Y cable. Basically what you do is you're gonna plug into the 15 amp outlets, the 2 in the very, very center. All right, you're gonna plug into those, and then that goes right to an L1430. So you can use basically a single unit, split phase. You can plug that right into a generator outlet or maybe a critical loads panel. So you can start powering things off grid or use it as an emergency backup. And of course, once that gets here, I will be testing that out to see how well this handles powering my house, just like I do with all of my other portable power stations that have the capability at least to power a house. All right, that's pretty much all I got. If you want my real honest opinion about the Zendure Superbase V4600, I do think it is really, really cool. It's got a lot of potential, especially whenever you start adding in all the expandable batteries, or if you could parallel in another Superbase V4600, you know, and then start adding in more batteries. The reason I say that is because I'm real into powering my house with batteries and solar. I just never want to lose power, specifically in the winter. So having the idea of being able to connect all of that stuff up to your house, you could potentially start powering your house off grid, you know, with the right setup, or at least have a really, really good emergency backup. All right, well, that's pretty much all I got. If anybody's interested in the Zendure Superbase V4600 that you can't see because it's out of camera right here, I'm gonna have affiliate links down below. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'd love to hear those down in the comment sections. Don't forget to like that smash button, and I will see you on the next. You got your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Why do I want to say Wi-Fi?